Uh, so, when I was speaking to someone about the fact that I'm moderating the session on brand purpose, the person asked me, brand purpose? Is there even such a thing? I said, yes, of course, because brands that don't stand for something may not stand the test of time. And we've seen some of the biggest brands who have a very focused purpose have lived on for ages and for decades and for even centuries. Yeah? So good afternoon and thank you for being here this afternoon for the panel discussion on brand purpose to brand power, crafting value-driven marketing in a noisy world. So we live in an era, and you will agree with me, that we are bombarded with endless messages and choices. In such a noisy landscape, the challenge is not just about being seen, but to be trusted, remembered, and valued. And that's where today's conversation will throw light on. How do brands move from having a purpose written on a mission statement on a wall to actually creating power that drives meaningful engagement, loyalty, and long-term growth? And for that, we've assembled this purpose through their respective fields. And together, all of us will try and address this issue that is the brand's purpose as important as just making noise in a world that we currently live in. And my first question to start off the conversation is to Ninad. Ninad, as a seasoned digital strategist who has been working with various brands, do all of your brands have a purpose? And if some of them don't, then what difference do you see in both types of brands' marketing approaches?
Hi everybody. And thanks, SF, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. Okay, so talking about the brand purpose, I think purpose is something at Cello we practice to the core, because Cello as a okay, so talking about the brand purpose, I think purpose is something at Cello we practice to the core, because it's a very strong statement for us to make. Every company has a strong statement for their brand to make. We have it as Companion for Life. And when I say Companion for Life, it's a story, obviously, from childhood. I think most of you have already used cello pens. Many of you are already maybe using cello bottles, cello lunchboxes. We as a company have seen people to revolutionize or step up from earlier. There used to be plastic plates, then came melamine plates, then came opalware plates, now there are porcelain plates. So a very strong, a relationship whenever somebody goes out maybe for a gifting or to purchase for their own household goods. Cello has become a very strong brand name on that front. So I feel that yes, we have lived to that brand purpose now. And the purpose itself drives the whole company ultimately. Because when there has to be some inspiration for the company also to drive. So this particular thing is something that we drive at a brand level. However, the second question that you asked, I mean, there are multiple categories that Cello operates out of, which do not have a specific brand names particularly. In those, the approach that you asked, what we follow normally is there are 2 or 3 pegs that we follow. One is the lifestyle peg. So whenever we have upper market products, we try to focus them in the lifestyle segment. Now, taking a lifestyle approach for a particular bottle or say a tumbler, which is I'm sorry, I'm just directly talking about the products over here, but that is how we, have it to do. So if there is a tumbler, 5 years back, people were not thinking that I will buy a tumbler worth rupees 2,500 or 3,000 ever, and that to going to office. But now people are ordering it without even thinking. So that level of lifestyle upgrade has become a part of us. Secondly, the same can be seen even in the routine household life. So early, maybe that is because of the DMarts of the world and retail Amazons and Flipkarts of the world, that everything has become very quick in the product terms, in the availability terms. And now that quick commerce has made the complete life very easy, at least that is how we perceive it. And that has brought a revolution in the product terms also. And that is why building those approaches, even if we don't have brand for every category, helps quite a lot. The one is lifestyle, as I mentioned. The other one is association also. Nowadays, influencer association or a celebrity association marks a huge difference for any product-driven thing. So that is something that we use extensively on that front, and that is how it has worked well.
Thanks, Ninad. The sense I'm getting from what Ninad says is that the category, like the mother brand, which is Cello, which has a purpose, which is defined as companion for life, when there is a purpose, I think the direction in terms of communication marketing becomes that much more pronounced and easy rather than the one that doesn't have. That's the sense I'm getting, but let's leave it for debate later. The next question I'm directing to Nikita. Nikita, as a client engagement strategist, you have been helping brands deepen their customer relationships. Can you share an example where purpose-led storytelling significantly boosted the engagement or brand loyalty?
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for having me here. So, storytelling has been part of a lot of brands, and adding a purpose, that's what we try to create. Adding a purpose to the storytelling gives a much deeper connection with the clients rather than just selling your product and services. See, clients don't want to just be bombarded with your brand communication. The purpose resolves that we reach a stage of our life where we want to be heard, we want to be valued, we want to be engaged with the relevance content. So I believe, so we initiated a project wherein we went beyond just brand communication. We went to our clients, we connected with them on various levels. For example, what wealth really means to them beyond numbers. What do they want to do with their wealth in the future generation, how they want to associate with different causes, how they want to leave a meaningful remark with their wealth. So these are various stories that came up, and honestly, in this interaction, there was a huge openness that we saw. They shared not just technical details, it was beyond. They went emotional. They narrated stories which probably they wouldn't have really spoken about for many years, and it was nostalgic. And and we tried in many ways to make a meaningful purpose of their stories through our brand communication. I think that's how purpose is more impactful. It gives you a much deeper connection with your clients.
Sure. Thanks for that. In fact, what was interesting is that in a category like finance, which is largely driven by numbers, the storytelling, and the empathy part came into play, and I think that's really interesting.
So I'll tell you, the audience, it's not just finance. I've been fortunately related to the UHNI segment for more than a decade now. So when you talk about this audience, they are very aware audience, I would say. They know exactly what they want, what are their needs, what are the solution for their needs, and how they want to be heard. So it's a very, very well-educated, well-aware audience. So, the purpose, that's when the purpose come into the picture, when it's not just about the brand and the product and services, you add value to the services that you provide to them.
Thanks for that. And since word purpose came up a lot in this particular interaction. I'm directing my next question to Mintu. Mintu, do you think purpose is becoming just another marketing buzzword? From your perspective, what's the difference between a brand that has a purpose and one that truly lives it?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. Now, I'll say this from the perspective, because I run Marketing Lab, which is a marketing agency, and we work with, during this course of 5-6 years, we've worked with like few hundreds of brands, and these are brands in multiple categories. Like, there are types of brand that truly cares about the messaging that goes out there. And there are also kinds of brand who only cares about the revenue that comes in. They don't really care about how their brand value or how people are perceiving their brand. And in that, obviously the difference is definitely that, like people, like let's say for example, if a brand wants to call themselves like a sustainable brand. And here again, I've seen that they call themselves as sustainable, but they're actually not sustainable. And the difference is like, and I've also worked with brands that are sustainable, but then, that reflects in everything that they do, starting from the kind of people they hire, their sourcing, their packaging, their products, their post-purchase experience, the entire thing. And that's what makes a, lasting memory in the mind of people, that, not only they buy, like they come to buy a second time, they come to buy a third time, they talk about that brand to other people, and that's how, they get more referrals, etc. But yeah, definitely, I mean, it is definitely a buzzword where a lot of brands who are not actually, they don't really have a purpose, but they talk about the purpose. But the ones that truly live in it, they are the one who practice it from the core in their entire operation, and that's how, they see long-lasting success and not something which is like a quick win.
Thanks for bringing that up, Mintu. I'm reminded of the conversation that I had with my son just yesterday. So he's down for a holiday, and we thought we'd just buy him a burger. But he said, "Dad, I've stopped eating McDonald's." And I said, "Why?" Because then he had a point of view that while they say that they're sustainable, they may not truly be sustainable in a sense that that affects his choice of actually enjoying the burger, which he used to when he was younger, but now he's more aware and he's researched and he's read, and I think consumers have a point of view on almost everything nowadays. So brands really need to be focused on their purpose, and they actually should live it. In fact, Alicia, as a brand strategist and a brand management expert, in your view, how does a brand ensure that its purpose is embedded in strategy and not just in marketing campaigns?
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here. So I think just to understand, to take a step back and really understand purpose, which is the core why of why this brand exists apart from profit making. So I think that is in itself a very core and integral founding and basis for any brand that's created. I remember when I was at, my first job was at Hindustan Lever, and it was mandated for every brand manager to spend multiple hours with consumers. So talking to consumers, really understanding and distilling key insights that helped you form new brands, form new campaigns. So I think it has to be that the purpose really has to anchor, like you said, everything from your business strategy, your hiring decisions, your level. So I think that is a very, key important thing to make sure that it is ingrained into the operational conviction of the organization. And then you have measurables, you put it into action in terms of how you operate, you celebrate successes, and you make sure people keep going back to that why. Brands who do it really well, for example, again, HUL, we studied Dove, the Dove Real Beauty campaign. They don't just, it's not one campaign, but their entire, the way they look at hiring real women, the way they look at investing in self-improvement and self-esteem initiatives, the products are more for diverse skin types, the inclusivity, the diversity. It's really ingrained across the company culture. Lego does it really well, Disney does it really well. So, I mean, brands at Tamarind Global, for example, we cater to bespoke luxury, very unique experiences. And it's not about just marketing that unique experience. It's about hiring the right people who are passionate and curious and able to kind of, form those products, about training them right, about looking at vendors and suppliers and collaborators that, that kind of offer that high touch personalization. So you ask the question of, are they reliable, are they luxury? So it really has to go beyond marketing. If it doesn't, influence the inside, it's not going to ring true on the outside. So you have to make sure that it actually permeates everything to be able to have a successful, and the marketing campaign just comes naturally then.
Thanks for that, Alisha. I think something interesting that I picked up was her point on story doing rather than just storytelling. She also brought up the example of Dove, where real women were used. This brings me to the question on influencers, given that Dove has used real women, and many other brands do that as well, but influencers are a big thing, and Raki, who has worked extensively with influencers, I'm going to ask you this question now, Raki, is do you think influencers are genuinely partners in creating a brand and its value, or they're just another addition to the entire marketing mix?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me in. Well, we've been running this influencer marketing wing for the last 3 years at TV Today Network. And this is what I think. Creators are definitely adding value. It is the way that how you are using the creators. For a brand, it's very important that the creators are resonating with the brand, and they should allow, the product flow, the integration of the creator, doing the integration in a subtle way and very naturally. Then only, the campaign will be a success. It cannot be that, any Tom, Dick, Harry coming and doing a campaign and, you just want revenues for it. I'll just give you a very live example we did for the Make My Trip campaign. We'd done this campaign, this was for the Mahakumbh. We picked up certain creators who were travel creators who were traveling to Mahakumbh at that point of time. The product integration came very naturally. The creators went to the Make My Trip, the luxury camps, and did this. And, we did a collab through Aaj Tak, where, digitally amplified on Aaj Tak. The creator handle also the post went. The campaign came out very well. So it is about that how well the creators are resonating with the product and the brands. And brands also have to be a little flexible in allowing creators to do the scripting. You cannot have a very rigid script. You should allow the creator also some kind of independence. Then only, it helps to create a good campaign. So this is what I feel, that creators are definitely making a lot of difference to the economy, and they're not just adding on, it's not just another marketing mix. It's required for a brand campaign.
Great. I think the key there was, how do you engage the customer through the right kind of influencers and giving them enough liberty to be able to create content that actually connects with the audience. When it comes to engagement, I'm tempted to ask Nikita, with the customers bombarded by messages daily, what does true engagement look like in 2025?
I feel in today's generation, the frequency of communication is not the key. The relevance, the authenticity, and uniqueness is the key to a very successful engagement. However, unless the client is, they feel the importance, they feel that they have been heard or valued, or a brand is adding any value to their life aspirations, that's when communication or engagement makes a lot of difference. I'll give you an example. Like I mentioned earlier, we engage with very high net worth individuals, and accessing anything in the world is very easy for them. However, it's a very big challenge when you have to curate experiences or communication offline or face-to-face for this kind of audience. So we try to do things which are beyond regular. For example, as small as launching a pre-launch restaurant experience wherein a Michelin star chef along with one of the promoters of the restaurant comes to your table and take a genuine feedback and engage on various topics of discussion. So that's when the consumer, the client really feels that this is not possible for them to buy with money, or it's like money cannot buy these kind of experiences. That's when the true engagement happens. And there are a lot of times that people know each other and never met. So these engagement gives them a platform where you must have spoken or you must have heard about people, but you really get to see them and engage with them in live environment. I think that's where a true engagement makes a difference.
Thanks for that, Nikita. In fact, so the key word that I picked up here was curating experiences that are relevant and make a lot of sense to the consumer. Given that, and to move the conversation forward, I'm asking Ninad, purely from a digital marketing experience, how do you cut through the digital clutter? What is it that you do to actually get attention from a digital perspective? And any specific examples that you have done recently that kind of help you achieve that?
So breaking through the digital clutter is something that we are working on since long time. Honestly, gone are the days where the advertisers or the storytelling was so powerful that people would remember it for ages. That we still remember, maybe in the 90s and 2000s ads and everything. So even the brands have vanished, but we still remember the storytelling. Now the scenario is completely different. Everybody wants to get only engagement of 8 to 10 seconds or maximum 30 seconds. Nothing more than that. Nobody's interested into it. So the key peg that we try to focus into is what is the most relevant thing to the customer as per the current scenario. So I'll just give you a very recent example that we did for 15th of August. We created a reel and you can to the customer as per the current scenario. So I'll just give you a very recent example that we did for 15th of August. It's the same thing. So if we want to be completely independent in terms of production or manufacturing, what are the steps that we are taking as a brand? And then we created a very small 30-seconder on that. How Cello is doing it. And that is really, that has gone very well for us in terms of engagement, in terms of reach. Organically, I'm talking about, not the promotional ones. So that, such kind of thing. Now that was one of the pegs. The other peg that we take is normally, again, as I mentioned about lifestyle, but again, the relevancy makes all the more difference. That audience that I am talking to, is it relevant to that particular audience and in that particular age? Whatever was relevant 1 month back also is not relevant now. That also makes a lot more difference. So that is what we try to speed up to.
So the sense that we are getting is the treatment, the communication, the creative tactic, the experiences, the way you are designing the campaign. And that all boils down to the creative and the communication bit. I'm asking Alisha now, from a creative execution point of view, is there any one unconventional creative tactic that you've seen recently that has cut through the clutter? It could be a campaign you worked on, or it could be something that you were inspired by.
Sure. So I think now with with the rise of AI and things happening in a very different way and evolving so fast, there's always so much uniqueness and creativity possible. One AI example that every small, however small you were, any small single store restaurant was able to sort of leverage that brand power and plug their name into that ad. So what happened was there was amplification beyond, like every restaurant was sharing the ad, and obviously they were playing on the celebrity star power, and Zomato was gaining as well. Offline campaigns, like you mentioned, Markham, there are some amazing come out of there. I remember a Lifebuoy campaign where they were stamping fresh rotis with, did you wash your hands today? Which is, very, very, again, ingrained in their purpose, which is to drive rural hygiene. So they were marketing Lifebuoy, and they were doing this in a smart, creative, unconventional way. Amazon did that with the boxes they delivered, which were repurposed into beds. So that was a very cool, one that cut through. But I think overall, it's moving more away from big budget, polished ads to more focus on authenticity, agility, more micro shareable moments. For my brands, which are, startups, my food brands, which Belgian Waffle Co. and Hotcha, which are startups, we've used a lot of very smart collaboration with content creators, whether it be influencers or UGC, which we've seen work really well. It's a trial and error, but for example, for Hotcha, which we retail gourmet hot sauces and chili oils, and the truffle hot sauce is our bestseller. So we kind of did this whole campaign where we played on the whole truffle bougie, hype, where everybody loves truffle and truffle fries and truffle this and truffle that, but no one really knows what truffle is when you ask them. So we tied up with a content creator who went out and asked people, do you like truffle? And everyone was ecstatic with their answers. And the follow-up question of, do you know what it is? Nobody seemed to know. So, we used that asset, and it was just a random thing we did, and we used that in performance, and that actually became a very good asset for performance marketing, actually drove conversions, So you really have to test and see. If you have a smart hook which is relevant, you go to the right people, you work with the right, sort of collaborators, you can make a dent. Similar stuff we've done, for Belgian Waffle Company, and it's really worked. So I think that three things that this does is it democratizes creativity. So if you don't have the big budgets, you put it out there and you make someone smarter create better content for you. The second thing, it really amplifies your message to relevant cohorts and people that you would not be able to reach ordinarily. And also it kind of builds and drives community participation where people feel some sense of loyalty and belonging. So I think, and everyone overuses UGC and influencers now, but there is merit and there are ways in which you can do it in a smart way if you have a good hook. So some of the examples that come to mind.
Thanks for that. And Alisha mentioned influencers again while she was speaking, so I'm directed to Rakhi now. Rakhi, almost every brand is using influencers, using stars. So there seems to be a fatigue that sets in. But do you really believe that influencers actually have the power to cut through the clutter when it comes to branding and communication?
Well, at times it could be that they are noisy, and at times it could be that they are creating value. It's both. But what I would say, it all depends. Like, they could be noisy if you're not, correctly using them. I mean, then it's of no relevance. And you have to, all brands have to really think thoughtfully what they want, in the campaign. Like, micro creators. It's right now the micro and the nano, which has been used. We're doing hyperlocal campaigns. That makes a lot of relevance. If you're not using creators thoughtfully, then obviously it becomes a noisy channel. We recently did a campaign with a real estate brand, where we thoughtfully used a creator who was an interior designer. And the campaign went on very well, and indirectly, the conversions and the leads also happened. We picked up a creator from the Mumbai and a certain specific area, which created a lot of buzz. We also use a lot of creators which are micro and nano for products, like geysers and all, where, we go like hyper-local. We ourselves tell brands that, don't spend too much. If we feel that there's a campaign which we can do at 7 or 8 lakhs with micro creators, which will give them better conversions, we always. So sometimes it is about we as agencies suggesting brands and giving them the right fitment. Otherwise, it's a clutter. It becomes a clutter, and there are creators who are doing all in all everything. That doesn't make sense. You really have to be very focused and see the need and accordingly suggest. Then only it makes sense. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do influencer marketing.
Thanks for that, Rakhi. This is the last question, and then we'll go to the, we'll wind up. Mintu, you've been using data a lot to, kind of create and derive stories for your brands. But do you believe consumers still respond to emotional storytelling, or they're just influenced by the functional benefits of a product and just go by what offers are being thrown at them?
See, I don't think there's a either or answer to this. Consumer today are much more faster, smarter, and much more emotionally available, as compared to before. So it's a mix of both, I would have to say. In some of the best campaigns that we have run, we have definitely seen that it's a mix of both, wherein the emotional aspect opens the door, and it is the product functionality, feature, or discount that gets you conversion. So emotional aspect, it's very important, because if your brand does not have that, then you're just another brand ABC in the market competing with thousands of other brands, and it becomes even more difficult to fight with the competition and stand there. So emotional aspect is very much important. But then, having said that, what we have seen in our experience is some of the best campaigns that we have run. Now, we all know that people's time span is, attention to time span is very limited. If your content is higher than 30 seconds, people typically wouldn't care. Even in that 30 seconds, it's your first 3-4 seconds, and if you don't nail those first 3-4 seconds, then no matter how good you do in the other part of the content, it's just going to get skipped. So that way, emotional aspect is very important. But then, once you have gotten someone interested, hooked with that emotional content, then it's your product USP, it's your website or social media or the discount offer. That's how you convert people and take them further down the funnel.
Great. I think that made a lot of sense. The last question is more of a quick one question to all of them, and they just maybe now sentence or two, maximum sentence, and also for something for the audience to think about. The question is, in a noisy world, is it more important for a brand to stand out or to stand for something? And I started with Mintu. That way.
See, here again, I would say that brand has to do both. First, you have to stand out in order to get noticed. Once you have gotten noticed, then you have to stand for something to exist in the market for long.
Ninad.
I think standing for is far more important, because that basically serves a purpose and which people or customers can directly relate to.
Great. Nikita?
I would say what really matters is why. I mean, what are you standing for and why? So that why really connects to the audience, not just what are you standing for.
Rakhi?
Definitely, it's what are you standing for, and there has to be a USP. Then only you can move forward. But, why and USP, both are very important.
Thank you. Alisha?
I think the standing for as well. If you stand for something, you will stand out, because the audience today is very smart and they can see through anything. So if you really truly stand for something, you'll find your cohorts and your loyalists, and you'll stand out to them.
Thank you so much. I think nicely put by all the panelists, and thank you for being a wonderful audience. We hope that we kept you engaged for the last 30-35 minutes. Take care of yourself, and God bless you all. Thank you so much.